The Northwest Law and Mental Health Conference brings together expert speakers with legal, clinical, and lived experience to discuss the impact of the law on people with mental illness and addiction. Our spring 2020 conference was postponed due to COVID-19, so presenters recorded their sessions, which are now embedded in the conference website along with their collateral information. Thanks to all our expert presenters, generous sponsors, exhibitors, volunteers, and the planning committee for the Northwest Law and Mental Health Conference. Stay well, and we hope to see you in 2021.
Well, welcome. Thank you for coming. Just want to send out a note of thanks to all of you because I know you're all involved in the mental health field, and in these trying times, more than ever, we appreciate all the work you do. So thank you. I'm delighted to be joined by Jessica Katz, the Executive Director and Founder of the Family Preservation Project. And that is the organization that runs the things in the film that you're about to see. And also with us is one of the graduates of the program, Lanetta Garner, who is now the Administrative Assistant at Central City Concerns Amani Center in downtown Portland. Welcome, Jessica. Welcome, Lunetta. Please enjoy the film. It's about 30 minutes long. And then afterwards, we will have a discussion. And I hope you enjoy it. Thank you.
You know that Mom talked to his teacher on the phone, and your teacher said that you were really good, which I know. What are you going to do today with Mom?
I don't know. I'm a picture going.
Your picture? Yeah, well, all your pictures are up there.
I told my son that I'm in a timeout and that I broke rules. And, you know, just like your toys get taken away when you're young, if you do things when you're older, you get taken away from your family, and that's your punishment. My son thinks that I've been here my whole life. He doesn't understand I've been here his whole life, not mine. So he's really excited to turn 6 because he knows I come home when he's 6.
We're almost there, Ben.
So let's go around and check in and parenting goal for today.
So I'm just excited to see her, and my parenting goal is to let her lead.
My goal is have fun. I'm going to talk to him about how his birthday out there went with his dad.
My parenting goal today is to spend some time with them and show them some baby pictures of when they were babies and work on their Spanish. So I'm really excited about that.
Thank you. All right, well, we should go get the kids. Okay.
Are you ready, bud?
Yep.
Come on in.
Nikki, do you want a jacket? Here. You forgot this stuff. My shoes? Probably, yeah.
I don't think society realizes that when they send a mother to prison, they send the entire family. The program itself, it has so many different levels and dynamics to it. Part of it is family reunification. The other part is parent education and teaching you new tools and coping skills as a mother.
Last year, before I started contacting my daughter, I felt like I had failed her so much that any contact with me would be more pain for her. I thought she was better off without me. The staff in this program really talked me through a lot of that. It took them 5 months to convince me to make a phone call. And I never thought I'd be able to, call my daughter and see how her school day is going. She loves me, and she forgives me. And it makes it so that I can forgive me.
the whole experience of becoming involved in the justice system and maybe addiction and maybe child welfare was just reinforced constantly that not only are you a bad citizen, but you're also a bad mother, and it really takes a lot to sort of break through it. We're going to dedicate today to just welcoming the new families and to having them feel part of this and included. So,
welcome, girls.
I'm loving Lunetta. You guys put too much on it.
I'm a kitten and my name's Kiana.
Kitten Kiana.
I have 4 kids. Well, I have 6 total, but 4 of them will be coming to visit me.
Tomorrow will be the first time that I have seen him since my incarceration, which has been a little over 2 years. So I'm very much looking forward to that. I'm very happy to be here.
And I want you guys to know that you can be safe in this environment, and it's okay to learn different things. You know, be open to different things. I had to learn that, and it took me a long time. And I've been here for 5 years, and I'm still learning. So my wishes for you guys are to rebuild bonds with your children.
I'm very happy and I'm very grateful, but I'm so nervous. So I appreciate all the support and help.
I was really, really nervous also. And I also felt really guilty about being nervous because it was like, this is my kid. Why would I be nervous about seeing my kid? That makes no sense.
And if they're not like, Mom, don't let it break your heart, because that happened to me. And I was like, oh, you don't know me? But they do know you. There's just all these emotions.
Just remember that it gets better.
They come back.
And they come back, and it gets better.
I mean, without this program, I wouldn't be able to see my children. You know, once a month and visiting, and no offense against DOC, but, you know, there's officers there, and it's in a confined area where you're just at a table, and it makes it hard for the children's walls to come down. With FPP, it's just very close-knit. You know, they're able to let their guard down, and so am I.
I made you something.
I made you something. No, you see? So I got taller.
You got taller.
Yeah, I know.
In like 2 weeks she grew. I'm not even joking.
Oh, I won't. I'm not going to stop.
When I saw her in the door, I was like, is she wearing heels? She better not be wearing heels. I will freak out.
I never wear heels. Good.
Yeah. You don't need to.
Yeah. Only grandma's heels to play in. Grandma's heels? Yeah. I only play in grandma's heels.
Do you still use it for school?
Yeah.
Every day? It's pretty cool. Proud of you.
That's mine.
It's yours?
My 4-year-old daughter, Phasia, I found out I was pregnant in county jail. I spent less than 24 hours with her in the hospital. When she first started coming, she really didn't want anything to do with me because she didn't know me. She went to everybody else, everybody but me. And no matter how much love I showed her, or how much I reiterated that it was okay, or told her that I loved her, she still didn't want any part of me. Now that she's seen that I'm here and I'm supportive and I love her and I'm here to make things right between what we really didn't have but we're growing to have. Yep, you're doing a good job.
It's so funny because she looks to me for more things now. It's not like I'm looking to her for something. It's like I'm actually being a parent and I'm helping her, not she's helping me, because I didn't know what to do at first. I didn't know what being a parent to her was. But now it's like, I know my role, and she gives me that.
It's lunchtime. You ready for lunch?
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna do this after.
We eat?
Yeah. I still want to do these colors and shapes, okay?
Yes, baby.
Okay?
Mom's gonna grab our lunch.
Okay. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. It's a deal? Shake on it. Okay.
You want to talk about it? You want to take your shoes off and get comfortable?
How are you feeling? You look upset. Come here. What's up, baby girl? Just want to cuddle?
Let me sing you? No? You are my sunshine. My only sunshine. Make me happy. Skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. So please don't take Sophia away. Is that better? Make you feel better?
It makes me feel better too. This is what makes me feel better.
Ooh.
What? There's something all over your mouth. I love you. I love you.
Who's that?
That's Elijah, and that's you, and that's Mommy. You were only a week old. Yeah.
You traded me, Mommy.
I promise I would never trade you.
You always do.
Look at who's that?
I don't know.
That's you.
That's me.
They were 4 and 2 when I got here. They're very loving and bright and amazing. And it really hurts to see them go through some of their difficulties that they have because of my situation and my choices. And we're just getting to the point where they trust me and they're okay to talk to me and they're okay to tell me how they feel.
Give you a surprise.
Okay, bring the picture and bring your stuff, and we can come give you a surprise out here, okay?
It gave me some of my hope and my pride back because I got to be a mom again. I got to be a real person. And it became more than just inside these walls where you try to block everything out. You become a human. You become open and willing and wanting because you see at the end of the tunnel, you know, when those children come, you see your hope again. You see your life again.
There was an old lady who swallowed a dog. What a hog. To swallow a dog?
Let's see if we can find it. Hey, he's barely peeking on us in that one.
I still would be the same, you see. I like myself because I'm me.
I know. I can feel by her heart.
Good job.
No other mom in the world would love you as much as I do. Who would? I mean, they would because you're a lovable boy, but they could never match my love for you.
It's almost like a...
Yeah?
Yeah. We're going to sing our song, okay?
Goodbye, goodbye, so long farewell. Goodbye, Sophia, goodbye to Vinny, goodbye to our moms and friends. Goodbye to Phasia, goodbye to Raina, goodbye to our moms and friends. Goodbye to Mickey, goodbye to Celine, we'll see you all again.
So let's make sure he can see everybody.
Make sure we can see your nose.
Give
You're
me my
good.
nose.
Okay. I don't want to go. I love you too, Mommy.
Just worry about being a second grader, okay? I'll be home soon, I promise.
One more hug. Love you. I love you, baby. Be good, okay? I'll call you. Here, take this stuff.
Love you, baby. I love you.
So you don't drop your book.
I love you, princess. Bye.
You got it? You okay?
Bye, Ronnie. I love you. Bye, baby girl.
Love you.
Yes.
Love you. Love you too. Love you.
Bye, baby.
Bye, Mommy.
Robin.
I reread this and it is like, I'm an evil person, I'm an evil person, I'm an evil person. You talked about yourself being kind of messed up, right? That you talked about it more the way I think I see it, which is that you have made some really poor choices in your life that have landed you in some not fun places.
Here I am in prison at 35.
You're a wonderful mom who loves her son, who turned her whole life around, but had made poor choices before that and had to now come to prison to pay for those choices.
It's kind of fitting time because it's like Mother's Day too, so maybe this will like release the burden a little bit off of her. My mom is like the whole reason that I see my son. If it wasn't for my mom, I would never see him because she gets him here, and it's just, they keep money on my phone so I can call, and it's just stuff that you shouldn't have to do. What do you mean? Hi. Mom, please, don't start already. Holy Christ, we just got here. Do you want to know the details of the day I got caught?
I'll tell you the details that I remember.
Go ahead.
It's good. It's healing.
We took Vinny to the park, and he was running and playing with a soccer ball. And he was so cute. He was not even taller than the grass, and he kept running and falling.
And you were on the phone with Daddy 100 times telling him every time.
And we came home. A cop was hiding behind a car waiting for me, and he pulled me over. I don't even know how to explain how that felt.
It's definitely a nightmare to any parent, but I'm just happy that you're still here. Somehow you just steered down the wrong path, but I don't think it's intentional. Nobody intentionally wants to screw up their life. So you have an opportunity to change that.
I just want to be, somebody that my son looks at and he's like, my mom went through some really bad stuff, but look at her. You know, I want to be that person that is the success story.
I think that realizing that there are little pieces of happiness everywhere, even if you have to squeeze your brain to find them, gives you a reason to be hopeful. There's life after here, you know? Thank God.
Why do you suppose we're doing this exercise?
We did this exercise so we can look for where we come from, to where we are, and what we want to change in our life, and what we want for our children, or the things that we don't want from our children, or the traits that we want to pass on to our children, and the traits we don't want to pass on to our children.
The consistencies of things that have happened, and maybe thinking of how we can break the cycle of whether it be addiction or abuse or whatever it may be, like just seeing the patterns in the family.
It's important to have something put out in front of you like this, because then you are more aware and you can see the things that you need to work on to break the cycle.
When I was growing up, my dad wasn't there for me. Not like that, you know, and one time my dad's now wife got drunk and told me while I was staying in the house with 3 of my kids that my dad never really even wanted me. I have this thing that I had to let go of, wanting to be bottled up and not wanting to let anybody in or know anything about me, and that was something I had to let go. And with letting go, that means opening up and sharing stuff like this, even though it might not be the best. You know, I didn't have the best life. I didn't do the best things. I want my life to be open and to be able to share with people. You know, I can't be the person that I want to be without opening up what's inside of me. This is finally where I need to be. I'm not this person that I was told so many times that I was. I'm not, you know, I'm not a hoe, I'm not a bitch, you know, I can do better. Like, no, I was told nobody wants you because you got so many kids and da-da-da, and you can't do anything. That was my life, and that's what I based my life on. And when I got into my drug use, I was nothing but a drug addict whore and da-da-da-da, but I had to change that. For me to completely change my life and to be there for my children, I had to change myself. And so that was the steps that I took to changing myself, was changing my thinking, because I'm not that person that I told that I was.
You're connecting the dots, and that's what this is all really about. Well, I think you're amazing.
Thank you.
Bring it in, crybaby. Bring it in.
because you've been through a lot and you've put people through a lot, you know, you sometimes lose compassion for yourself. And
Makes you grateful for where you are now.
right, and so understanding, you know, the path and understand making those connections and also starting to have some compassion for yourself helps you move through the guilt and the shame and all that stuff you have to move through so that you can just be present.
Ornery.
How do you spell love?
Love. Let's flip it over. Let's sound it out. L.
Let's go get whiteboard face.
Good job.
Okay. I do it. I want to do that. Hey, wait. Hey. I love mom. And then I love you. 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 Done. Wait. Period. I love you, Mom.
I love you too.
Let's open it up for wins.
He was sitting in the kitchen by himself, and my parents have a candle on the table, and my dad said that he pretended to blow the candle out, and then he closed his eyes and he said, "I wish my mommy was here."
I talked to Nikki the other day. He was in a bad mood because couldn't get his moves right, his karate moves right. I said, "Oh, you're taking karate?" He goes, "No, but I got some moves."
For everybody that didn't know, I talked to my son last night for an hour.
Yay! That's what we're good for.
I love him. He's great. He's so funny. He doesn't sound like my baby anymore.
So my brother's adding on to his house so that I can go and move with him.
Yay!
It does have a red roof, and he's adding on to his home. So like the garage, he's gonna turn it. They're gonna actually put walls up and carpet and turn it into my bedroom.
My brother, he's probably about third grade, I'm probably in like the first grade. And we'd come home from school and he used to, every single day, he would be like, "Okay, let me brush your hair." And he would brush my hair and he would be like, "All right, let's go." And he would hold my hand and we'd go door to door down like neighborhoods, we'd walk really far. And he'd knock on doors and he'd be like, "We just wanted to know if you have any yard work we can do," you know? And that taught me. So that's one of my, it's a low point because to be a child that young and that hungry, that your brother, you know, is literally feeding you from working on his hands and knees and pulling weeds, but it also gave me a sense of love.
Katrina is a wonderful person. She's my little sister. She's the other half of me, and together we form our mother. I see a lot of what me and Trina went through in our lives. Their rock and their foundation is seeing their mother. It means the world to them. From the time they wake up to the time they go to bed, it's just, they look forward to making it through that day so they can get a day closer to seeing their mother. I love my sister very much. I'll do anything for her. And I think a lot of people lose focus of family and how much it means.
There's so much suffering that happens when a mother particularly comes to prison, their own suffering and their children's suffering, and the gift of helping to relieve some of the human suffering is powerful.
I feel all of a sudden a loss of hope. It's just doesn't make sense. It's very frustrating, and it shouldn't be this way, especially with a program like this. It's not fair.
I think we're all just still in a state of denial about the whole situation. And like, we've just been working really hard and we just don't want to give up hope. Because for a lot of us, you know, for some of us, we won't get to see our kids without FPP at all. So, and I don't know, you know, I do know who's really being hurt from, you know, the choices we made and then all these things. It's the kids. So something's got to give. Well, and I mean, we've made our mistakes and we've held ourselves accountable and we, you know, are trying to move forward in life. And yet somehow we're continuing to make our children suffer. And how is that? It sucks. It does suck.
It just continues this cycle.
Yeah.
It's not fair.
It's not.
Just continuing the revolving door.
Goodbye, goodbye, so long, farewell. Goodbye, Celine, goodbye, Sophia, we'll see you all again. Goodbye, goodbye, so long, farewell. Goodbye to Josiah, goodbye to Kate Mona, we'll see you all again. Goodbye, goodbye, so long, farewell. Goodbye to Raina, goodbye to Ronnie, goodbye to our moms and friends. Goodbye to Nikki, goodbye to Vinny, we'll see you all again.
Did you have a good time? Yeah. Sometimes having to leave is the hard part, huh?
Hi, Philip. Nice to meet you.
Yeah?
Did you have fun with Kate?
Okay. We're done?
Right, perfect. You want me to turn it over? You got a bag of stuff here too.
Okay. Is this your water bottle? Turn the bag if you want to grab it.
You know what, ultimately these families have been kicked to the curb so many times, they'll come out of this okay. And I just thought to myself, that really doesn't make it okay. That's sort of reinforcing this belief system that, you know, they are people who deserve less and that they're getting what they deserve.
That's mine. That's mine. Yours? Yeah, Philip. Nice to meet you.
It's yours. I was like, oh my.
Jessica, I wonder if we could start things off with you just telling us about what's going on now with the Family Preservation Project, especially in regards to funding and the Oregon legislature.
Sure. Well, thanks for the opportunity to be here with all of you today. So during this past legislative session, there was some momentum towards passing House Bill 4131. House Bill 4131 would have put funding in statute for the Family Preservation Project, passing through the Criminal Justice Commission for 7 years, which would have been the most stable funding that the project has ever had. And, you know, due to the chaos that ensued and the walkouts this session, House Bill 4131 did not move. The project was then slated to be funded through a direct allocation again for 2 years through the final reconciliation bill, which it was thought that the Republicans would come back and vote out the budget bills, but it was decided that the session would not be equitable if folks came back just to vote out the bills that they wanted to vote out. And so the budget bills were not passed. So that left the Family Preservation Project unfunded by the state legislature. And that is still where we remain today. So we have been very fortunate through the YWCA to have had contingency plans that will hopefully get us through to the next opportunity that we can seek funding.
Wow. I must say, as a, you know, filmmaker and kind of outside this whole process, it just seems amazing to me that that we're having this conversation now still about the funding. I mean, I naively thought when we made the film that, you know, this would be a one-time thing that would get funded kind of, you know, in perpetuity, and you just be able to do your great work and not even have to worry about funding. Can you just tell us a little bit about how you kind of keep your focus and your heart through all this, and you know, kind of keep your eye on the prize?
Well, I think, you know, in a world where it's hard to believe in anything sometimes, the Family Preservation Project is just something that I have really deeply believed in. And not because of any great work that we necessarily do, but just like, I think it more speaks to the power of love and the importance of family and connectivity, and how, you know, that can persevere through the darkest of times. And when it does, there's just a tremendous amount of healing. We have seen cycles actively broken over the years that the program has been in existence. I see just a tremendous amount of hope and opportunity that if we don't keep fighting for it, you know, I think it's just a tragically missed opportunity, and we just have to keep pushing.
Well, I can't think of any better example of hope and strength than Lanetta Garner. Hi, Lanetta.
Hello.
First of all, thank you so much for sharing yourself in the film. I just felt so privileged to be able to film you. It was a real honor. Can you tell us about what's happened since you were released and what your life is like now?
So a lot has happened since my release. I am currently able to see all 5 of my kids. We do overnights. I get weekends, holidays, pretty much everything within the standards of the care providers. I couldn't ask for anything more. Since my release, I have been consistently working. I've always had a job, and it's one of the most wonderful feelings ever, from going to where I was to now being a meaningful part of my community. I'm currently working at Central City Concern, and I do work in the mental health and addiction field. I'm not a counselor or anything. I just do most of the front office work, but I run the office. Anything that goes on in the day-to-day of our office, it goes through me. So I have contact with not only my clinicians, but every single one of my clients who I know by name. So that's pretty much all I've been doing. Kids and work.
Lanetta, can you tell us why you became involved in the Family Preservation Project and how it impacted you?
So in the beginning, I didn't know anything of the Family Preservation Project. Somebody was like, just put in an application for it and go and write your kids letters. But I actually put in an application to become a part of the program. And it was a lot of women who were there putting in applications, trying to get in, wanting the services. It helped me a lot. I had a daughter while I was incarcerated there in 2009. And I wasn't able to do visits. I didn't get to talk to her much. I didn't get to talk to any of my kids very often. And with them being a part of the Family Preservation Project, I was able to see my daughter consistently when they were able to bring her up there. The program helped immensely with funding for the caregiver to get to the location, as well as to providing lunches and be able to spend that time. And that's a lot for someone who has nothing. And basically while I was incarcerated, I had nothing outside of my kids or my family or the support of the FPP program. Without their support, I don't think I'll be as far as I am now. It really helped me to open up my eyes and realize who I was as a mother, who I was as a woman, and who I am as a person to everyone else. Those were the things that I was avoiding in my life. Those were the things that I didn't want to look at. But those were the things that the Family Preservation Project brought out of me, and I was able to experience a lot more than what I was wanting to give of myself. I was able to give so much more of me, and that's why I am where I am now.
Jessica, why do you think the program is so successful? What makes it work?
What makes it work? I think what makes it work is, I think motherhood is an incredibly powerful vehicle towards, sort of becoming the best version of yourself that you can be. I think it's fatherhood as well, but since we work in the realm of motherhood, I'll just speak about that. And particularly in a place where you have been stripped of all of your various identities and reduced to a number, to become really grounded and rooted in motherhood and the idea that there's still something much greater than yourself to like keep putting one foot forward, is, I think, extremely important, especially in prison for women. And you can almost see, like I almost can see a switch flipped when people are healing and becoming whole again, and then really starting to embrace this identity of motherhood. And I think it's just incredibly powerful and motivating because it's a profound responsibility. And once that switch is flipped and you can see somebody really embracing the fact that I have this profound responsibility and I have this opportunity to provide things for my kids that unfortunately were not provided to me and that caused me pain and suffering, I don't have to repeat that. And the knowledge and power to really actively do something different is, I think, is just tremendously powerful.
Yeah, I mean, that's what inspired me to make the film, is this idea of like, stopping, basically human pain, human suffering. I mean, this idea of a healing program that really has ripples that, impact the whole community. Can you give some examples of that? Like some of the healing that you've seen?
I think some of the healing that I've seen is this, I think there's this moment where women come to terms with the fact that the people that raised them and sort of brought them into the world did the best that they could given their own circumstances, that it's so cyclical and it wasn't good enough. And then, finding this moment where you realize
I have this opportunity to provide something different for my kids. So oftentimes we facilitate parent-teacher conferences from inside. And oftentimes I would ask the question in the class, like, who, raise your hand if your parents attended your parent-teacher conferences. And often in many cohorts of all of the years, there wouldn't be a single hand that went up. And then at the same time, every mom in the program was participating in parent-teacher conferences. So there was like this active moment where women were providing for their kids something that was never provided for them. And then they had, research to back up why that's important. So we would talk in class about the importance of a parent's involvement in their kids' education. So just knowing that even from inside of prison, women were able to actively do something that would change the trajectory for their kids was an incredible amount of healing. And just the way that, like I remember Lunetta like laying on the floor and playing with her kid. And I can probably guess nobody did that when you were a kid with you. Like nobody got on the floor with you and played with you and followed your lead. And so I think, the healing happens in that when you're showing up for your kids in a way that is good, in a way that nobody did for you, like you're also healing yourself and you're also providing something for your kids. And it's just all good, all goodness, I think.
Very nice. Can you talk a little bit about the letter writing program that you started?
Oh, the one right now?
Might be an opportunity to, maybe there's someone watching.
Oh, yeah. Sure. So we've started a campaign called You Are Not Forgotten. And it's a pen pal. We're seeking 150 pen pals because we're currently serving about 150 women at Coffee Creek. And we're trying to connect every one of them with a pen pal. And there's no expectation to write back, although if that's something that's of interest and Women Inside can execute, we're offering to collect mail at our PO box and then forward mail if people don't want to use home addresses. And the idea is that people are committing to writing 3 just uplifting messages a week so women inside know that they're not forgotten, that they're seen, that they're cared for. And if a pen pal relationship can be executed, that's great too, but we know that women inside are limited on having like writing supplies and money on their books right now to buy envelopes and postage. So there's no expectation, but if people want to, then obviously the pen pals are really interested in actual correspondence. And if it's not possible, just, people are receiving some love in the mail three times a week. And we figure that can only just help brighten things in there right now.
That's wonderful. Lanetta, I'd like to switch gears a little bit. And one thing, in making a film, you shoot all kinds of footage and then some of it doesn't make it into the final film. But one thing that did make it into the final film was that I had the privilege of shooting Lanetta literally walking out of Coffee Creek Correctional Facility and starting her new life. I think I was probably guilty of what I think a lot of people do, and they assume that there's this magical they out there who take care of things like, when someone's released from prison, well, of course we'll have like housing set up for them or whatever. And, you delve into these things and you realize that, there are a lot of holes in the system and, things aren't really as they should be. And so, Lanetta, I'm sure you recall I filmed you coming out of Coffee Creek with your box full of possessions. And I forget who it was, but someone met you at the gate and drove you, I think, to your PO's office, if I'm remembering correctly.
It was my mentor at the time.
Right. And I quickly became aware that my presence with the camera was maybe making you a little bit nervous, that you already had a lot on your plate. And so I didn't want to add to that. So I stopped the filming. But I guess what I'd just like to maybe have you talk about is how you go from walking out of prison with a cardboard box full of, everything you have in the world to where you are today, deemed an essential worker at Central City Concern. Setting up the shot study, Lanetta had like a surgical mask on and gloves, and having such a vital position. How does a person make that transition?
there's no real way to answer that because I'm still transitioning. Coming out of there and being where I am now, it's all in the same. There's still a lot of tough obstacles that I have to go through. There's still a lot of battles that I'm fighting. It wasn't easy for me to get this job. It took me 2 interviews and writing a 3-page letter because I didn't have the work history for somebody else to write me a letter to say, oh, she's a good worker. I didn't have any of that. I didn't have people I can call to help me get this job. So it was a struggle. And every day it's a struggle for something else. Do I enjoy the struggle? Yes, I do, because it helps me to overcome those things that I'm afraid of. Like I'm not afraid to do all those things, all those barriers that were placed in front of me. Like I've learned to jump those hurdles and keep going. I don't use it as a setback or feel bad about it. I've basically learned from it. But leaving out of that door, like I was confused. I didn't know where nothing was. I didn't know what the world was. I didn't know what I was getting into. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know how to catch the buses anymore. I didn't know how to use a cell phone, nothing. Right now, I still don't know how to do half those things, but that's just between us. But like today, I still hold on to my past there. Not so much is because I feel like it was a part taken out of my life, but it was me getting better. It was a different type of transition for me. It wasn't so much of, oh, I'm locked up, oh, woe is me. It was, now I can finally get myself together and do what I need to do. Like I did college and everything while I was in there. Like those were never things that were set out in front of me. I never got the opportunity to do that because I threw it all away. When my mom passed at a young age, my first thing to go to was my addiction. And then I had kids and then it went to men. So I wasn't able to express myself or be who I wanted to be because I was so afraid of people knowing me. But it's like that transition from then to now, it's just a learning experience. It's not really even a transition. It's just a learning experience. It just made me a better person.
One thing I was really struck by was the accountability within the women's group there. Where does that come from and how do you maintain that?
I don't know where it comes from. I think for me, mostly it's just to let people know that they're not the only one that's like this. Like every day, my clients, I let them know, hey, I was you, I am you. You're no different than me. And it's just being able to open up and let people know that it's okay to tell your story and for them to know different things about you, all those things that you try to hide, it's okay. And I think for me more is letting people know that you do have a voice and you can use it.
That's beautiful. Jessica, how could people help support FPP? Like, is there any plea you want to make for donations or anything?
Well, we're right now trying to get approval to send in a bunch of writing paper and pens so that writing is not a barrier. People do want to correspond. We are trying to explore ways to support financially video visits. I think it's real hard on the kids right now who are used to seeing their mom on a regular basis. That you know, the phone is one thing, but it's different. And I know the kids are worried about their moms, and to see their face would be really helpful. So we have been really fortunate to be able to set up phone accounts through the telecommunications company. So I continue to talk to the women inside right now and support them on a weekly basis and follow up on things that they need follow up on. But there are things like, you know, families don't have access to the technology they need to execute a video visit. So I'm trying to, you know, buy cameras and send them to families so that they can see their mom on the screen if we're able to execute visits. So I think one of the things, if anybody is really interested in, is trying to crack the nut of this telecommunications company. Like in a moment where mortgage companies are forgiving mortgages and credit card companies are forgiving credit card debt and, you know, car payments, the telecommunications company, what they have done is stepped up to offer 2 free 5-minute phone calls per week. And my sense is that they can do better. And so, you know, I think that there's some movement to kind of build a coalition to apply some pressure on the telecommunications company to do better, to offer free phone calls and video visits for folks that are inside for the duration of this kind of lockdown period.
Jessica, obviously you haven't been able to visit Coffee Creek for a while, but do you have a sense of how things are in there right now during the pandemic?
Yeah, so I've been talking to the moms in the program like weekly for their weekly meetings with us. So, you know, they're scary. They're scary out here. They're scarier inside. I think the access to information is fairly limited. You know, people just don't really know what's the plan, and, you know, what if and this and that, and there are no programs. So it's quiet, it's boring, it's a little lonely, it's isolating. You're not getting to visit your loved ones, and there's not much to do all day. So we are also asking pen pals if they're interested to send in books either from Amazon or from thrift books to people that they're writing to, so that they're getting reading material. For the folks that we serve, hardback or paperback are fine, new or used are fine. So there's some loosening of like the restrictions on what can go in. But it's scary and it's tense, and you know, the treatment programs have shut. So we have folks that have been in treatment for 5 months and they had 30 days to go and they won't graduate from their treatment program. People have lost their alternative incarceration program dates, so that they're staying in prison longer than they would have. And that's, you know, the ripple effect on families who were, you know, we're gonna make it just till this date, and, you know, and it was tenuous. Now it's like longer, and there aren't really any good plans to have people hang on longer. So, you know, you can imagine the ripple effects on families and on the individuals inside. It sounds hard, but I am like very moved by the spirit that I've always seen with women at Coffee Creek, which is that people can really rise to the occasion and take care of each other. And that's been my plea, like, just take care of each other right now, because you are all you got, and you're all, you know, your fellow moms, and you're all going through this together. And I think that the capacity for women to take care of one another is pretty great.
Jason, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I have some questions from the audience perspective. Okay. Just, you three are quite amazing in your dedication to this. It's inspiring to hear you speak. Brian, would you tell us a little bit about who you are and about your approach to filmmaking?
Sure. I'm Brian Lindstrom. I typically usually make films about people that society puts an X through. And I really love situations where I'm allowed to kind of be a fly on the wall and film people going through a process. And I've found that that situation is usually most successful if the process has a lot at stake. And you know, obviously with the Family Preservation Project, what is at stake is, well, a number of things. The mother's relationship with the child, the mother's chance to kind of address the underlying conditions that brought her to prison in the first place. And I think the reason why it's important that the stakes are high in terms of the filmmaking is it's because I become like the least important thing in the room. No one really cares if I'm there with the camera, because they know what they need to accomplish. And I'm just so happy to have been let into the Family Preservation Project and to be a fly on the wall and show the great work, that goes on there. I truly believe that it not only improves the lives of the families that you see, but like our whole community. What the Family Preservation Project does, the chance to address childhood trauma, addiction, mental illness, all these things, and to realize that it's no failing of an individual. There's no shame involved. It's really just, these are the challenges placed in my way. Now that I know these things, how do I move forward in a positive way? And, my God, Lunetta is such a perfect example of that,
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about how did you get to film in prison? Who let you in?
Well, Jessica greased the wheels, and I will say that the Department of Corrections, for the most part, during the filming was very cooperative, and I'm very grateful for that. However, truth be told, once DOC announced that they were going to cut the program, an earlier version of the film became kind of a rallying point to try to, educate the public about, hey, we can't let this happen. And at that point, the cooperation with the Department of Corrections, kind of diminished. But I was very grateful to be able to film in prison. It's not an easy thing to do. You have to go through the metal detector with all your equipment. You have to make sure that the public information officer, the wonderful Vicki Randall, who is so helpful, we have to coordinate with her to shoot in there. It's, it's not easy, but it's certainly important.
It's quite a film. What's been the response?
Well, it's been really wonderful. Mainly it just raised awareness, and I think it helped FPP get funded and get back into prison doing its great work. It won some awards, I'm happy to say. It just until recently was distributed digitally through Dark Hollow Films, and so it got into like hundreds of community centers and community colleges, school systems, sheriff departments around the country. So I'm just delighted that it kind of shared the great work that Jessica and Lanetta and the rest of the women and the families do.
Question for Jessica. Great ideas sometimes don't get up and move on their own. You really, you had this great idea, you have this great program, Lanetta's the evidence of this. Why haven't people just said, yes, let's do this everywhere?
Great question.
Great question. I think a short answer to that question is like to do it well, you have to invest money and resources. And I think we have an appetite to do things on a large scale with sort of a small impact. And I think FPP has always, to me, been this kind of living laboratory of like, what if we, through all the right things and resourced it heavily, what would happen as an experiment? And what happens as an experiment is, I think it works. But I think we continue to have more of an appetite to do things like big and with sort of less impact, if that makes sense.
What would your advice be to others organizing these sorts of efforts? What have you learned about fighting the power?
Well, I think it's the fighting the power has really always happened alongside women and children and families who have lived the experience. And I would say, like, don't ever miss the opportunity to have people who are the experts about their own lives and their own experiences be at the forefront of the conversation, rather than speaking on behalf of people. We have, in this last legislative session, we had a lobby day, and we had 38 moms and children show up in the middle of the day on a work day in Salem to just talk to people about why this was important. And it's very difficult to argue with people's own experience. You can argue with me as, as the day is long, because it's not my experience, but to sit in a room with people who say, this is my experience, this is why this is important, it becomes really hard to argue. So I'd say the fight has never been my fight. The fight has always been the fight of this really beautiful village that the Family Preservation Project is. You know, at the heart of the Family Preservation Project is the idea that it takes a village, and it's about community, and it's about, you know, women recognizing that historically, as marginalized people, they have been pitted against each other, and the way that we really create the quiet revolution is when you lift each other up. So the fight has always really been the collective, and I think that is what I would say to anybody who's got to fight power.
So Lunetta, how does it feel to be a soldier here and fighting the power?
I love it. I wish I could do more, but I'm one of those ones, I work 7 days a week and I kill myself. But I try to be present when I'm able. But definitely I wish I could do more. I wish there was more that I could do. But I'll be here as long as I'm able to at least help.
So you're very inspiring, and just to see you in the film and see you here and see the continuation of your dedication, how do you, where do you draw your strength from? Oh, are you there?
I would have to, yeah,
I
would have to say that mainly comes from my kids. I also have 2 grandkids now, and I see the strength in them. I see them always looking up to me for something and wanting so much more from me and want me to do better, like they push me. And then I have my 2 grandsons, which I was definitely blessed with. And it's just a wonderful feeling to be able to show people who thought you wouldn't make it that, hey, I can do it. And so that motivates me as well. All those people that said I couldn't do it, I'm showing them, yes, I can, and I'm going to, and I'll continue to do it. Like that's the best feeling in the world.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank
You're in the right spot now. Well, Brian, thanks so much for showing us your film, and thanks, Jessica and Lunetta, for speaking with us about your experience and your dedication to this Family Preservation Project.
Thank you for the opportunity. It was really good to see you, Lunetta. Good to see your face.
Me too.
Good to see you killing the game out there with your gloves on.
I'm trying to.
Yeah.
I'm trying to.